There you go.
Okay, all right. You want to talk Nakato at 62 points or Dan Hounds at 87 points?
Welcome to the Rugby Rant podcast show, your premier North American rugby podcast. Growing rugby, one fan at a time.
And welcome back, rugby fans, here again with the Rugby Rant podcast show, episode 142. My name is Ty, the Safa Braga. Joining me as per usual, by my side is Rob, the Hammer Hammerschmidt. And in the absence of Scott Ferrara, the big guy, we brought an even bigger guy in rugby. That, of course, is Ryan Ginty from Next Level Rugby. Ginty, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, excited to be here. Episode 2 on the Rugby Rant, my favorite podcast
you just
out
missed
there
140
right now.
of them. That's okay.
140 of them. It's all right. But I mean, I've listened to all 140 of them. Don't you worry. Sometimes twice back to back. There's a lot of time between SeatGeek Stadium on my way home from work back home. So yeah. So
we appreciate you lying straight to our faces. You know, I really do appreciate.
I'm counting on one hand all the subscribers that we have.
Yeah. Wait, I can subscribe to this? I do that. I just look it up. Yeah. I'm not good at that.
So, Ginty, as per usual, a pleasure to be able to have you here with us. And for those folks tuning in, a quick reminder, of course, we're going to be taking some time to talk about the news from across the rugby realms, in particular here on U.S. soils. We dive into that for a moment. But finally, we're going to have the opportunity to talk about the MLR Championship, which took place this past week. We have some really great insights to talk about, covering the rugby product on the field, off the field, and everything in between. And of course, the viewing experience for you at home as a fan of the MLR experience. 2023, we crowned a new champion, of course, the Free Jacks. So stick around to be able to learn about this and much more as we dive into it shortly.
When we pick up the ball, we also pick up a legacy. A legacy that stretches beyond your current team. A legacy built on the backs of those who came before you with hard work. And for those who will come after you, we promise it won't be easy. But we'll be there, supporting you on and off the field.
All right, rugby fans, you know how it goes. Around the pitch, we're going to hand it across the table one by one in a quick fire round. The news you should know as a fan. Starting with you, Rob.
Thanks, Ty. And again, welcome, Ryan. It was awesome working with both of you guys this weekend. Had a ton of fun. Just a great weekend overall. But I want to dive into one of those pieces right now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this. Kind of my baby, if you will. Nola Gold have a new CEO. They're not much for making announcements in regards to this. Same thing happened with Chase Langdon, who parted ways with the Gold. I don't know the details, and I don't know that it matters. I think what's important to take away is that Van Gullinghouse is in, and the reason this is important, from my perspective, is he comes from a marketing background. He's a director of event sales, the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation. He was responsible for bringing the NCAA basketball tournament to New Orleans. He was responsible for bringing Super Bowls to New Orleans. So the guy really knows how to bring a party to New Orleans. Not that you need a bigger party in New Orleans to begin with. Ran Gullinghouse Marketing, VP of Marketing for manufacturing, water purification. So the guy has a strong business background. And the important part of this is he's charged with engaging World Rugby, because I do believe that the city of New Orleans and the NOLA Gold want to host some Rugby World Cup games in 2031, 2033. The other thing he's playing a significant part of is engaging with the state of Louisiana, because they're the owners of the gold mine. And that facility is going to be changing to be a much more multi-purpose sports complex. They'll still be the primary tenant, but they want to have a significant say in what that place looks like and how it's organized. So he's going to be charged with really engaging the state of Louisiana to make that happen.
Yeah, it's fantastic to be able to have somebody that, what rugby needs is really good business people in addition to great rugby people, right? It's been kind of the downfall in the past is that when you just pick rugby people and you keep it inside the same circles, you don't get new ideas, you don't get new leads and new contacts. So it's great to be able to stretch, but still staying very close to home. So a wonderful addition, exciting news and exciting ambitions for NOLA and the city itself. I'm going to take the conversation to USA Rugby here, as on the horizon, not that far away, this coming August 12th and 13th, we have the USA Club Sevens Championships, this time taking place out in Wisconsin, Madison to be precise. And this has been a phenomenal venue for a couple of different reasons. And as a result, it's going to be a great place for the host. And for those of you who don't know, the Club Sevens is actually made up of 4 different regions brought from all 4 corners of the U.S. Continental areas, as you can imagine. I want to run through a brief list of that. So we've got in the West, we got Southern California, Northern California, including the Pacific Northwest and Frontier region. So you got the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region. Central is covered by Red River and the Midwest unions. South is the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and True South. So you really are drawing from almost every part of the U.S. And on that note, Ryan, you're going to be there on the ground, so to speak, right? You and Next Level Rugby, right?
Yeah, no, super excited about that. I got my Madison, Wisconsin Rugby Sports Complex hat right here.
Quick wardrobe change,
yep. Almost fell over right here trying to get to it, a little bit jammed up. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm super excited about that. It's going to be second year we're covering it. Last year, we basically got a call, 2 weeks before the event. We're like, hey, we have no coverage. We're playing at a field in the middle of nowhere. And actually, it wasn't in the middle of nowhere. It was in the middle of St. Louis, a beautiful forest park, but no internet, no power, no infrastructure, no elevation, no nothing.
All right, you got 2 weeks to figure it out.
2 weeks to figure it out, right? Instantly made some phone calls, have some friends that are passionate about the game, got together, figured it out, put on a show. Worked with Philip Coopins, who it was dropped in his lap last minute as well too. Anybody's lap that gets dropped into, it's good that it's dropped into his lap because Philip is awesome. He's transparent. He'll communicate with you. He'll tell you exactly where he's coming from. He's an Army officer. Won't hold that against him. But it definitely shows up in his accountability and his ability to just engage. So it's awesome. Last year, it was in St. Louis. The fields were amazing. Really excited about that. Sion came in and just cleaned house with everybody, as they were. Impressive, very impressive. Nav came in and won. Corey Jones won, I think, like every other rugby tournament he had been in this summer playing in that. Really awesome. And it was just a great vibe at that venue in St. Louis. But now going to Madison Sports Complex, we're at a real rugby facility. We have power. We have elevation. We have a rugby community around in a clubhouse with a bar. You can sell. There's an area. There's going to be literally going on. There's going to be cornhole. There's a pavilion area. It is like an awesome venue to just host a rugby tournament. Right. And we did the girls' high school national championships there, and just the shots and the environment and just that environment was awesome. So really looking forward, to that event going up there. And truth be told, I think Brad Dufek is probably one of the best tournament organizers out there. A lot of experience with NCR running all their events, commissioner for every league. So his house now, he's hosting it. Going to have bars, right? So that way bring the fans, bring people out there. You got food.
And on that note, tickets are only, I believe, $5. And obviously, it's going to be hot rugby. So less than a beer, right? I mean, I paid $11 for a beer at SeatGeek. So,
and this is Wisconsin, right? These are Wisconsin is I'll just. Yeah.
And I was going to say, Madison, I'm just a stone's throw. We get up in the southern Wisconsin area all the time. Madison is a great city to go out. It's small. There's a lot of micro brews. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah, if you're in the Midwest, you want to check it out. Madison will be a phenomenal place to hang out over the weekend.
Right.
And if you're in the country, anywhere in the country, come out, right? You fly into Milwaukee, fly into O'Hare. It's not that far. It'll be a great event.
So for those who do want to learn more about it, go and check it out online. USA Sevens Rugby, all one word, the number 7, not the word sevens. So that's us7srugby.club. You'll see the itinerary. You'll see the teams competing. You'll see the start and end times. Going to be a phenomenal weekend, August 12th and 13th in Madison, Wisconsin. But I believe you have something else to be able to share, right, Ryan?
Yes. So one of the other things that's teams that have qualified real quick, I'll just run down that. Women's Scion, defending champions, they're in it, no surprise. WAC, Washington Athletic Club, coming in from the West Coast, they're awesome. And then HEB Hurricanes, a new team coming out of Texas. I believe Euless, Texas. I tried looking on Facebook. HEB, that's Texas for sure. But they've looked like they've been pretty impressive down south. Men, Tennessee Elite, Dallas Rugby Club, Austin Huns, they're all qualified. They've all punched their ticket, and they're all ready to go. But that's not the only tournament
names
going
that
on.
people will recognize from Club Rugby, of course, being represented. Rob, we turn it back to you. What else do you have to share with folks tuning in?
Well, we've been off the board for 2 weeks, just kind of keeping busy with our personal lives and ramping up, getting ready for the final. So we haven't touched upon this yet. With the final going on, a couple of key retirement announcements were made, and we may see more at some point later on the season, but two were definitely made. One is Will Hooley. Obviously, name carries a lot of cachet. He's from the UK, played with Northampton, Exeter, Bedford Saracens, and then he repped England for the in 2013 for when it was IRB World Championships. But he was a U.S. Eagle, number 517, capped against Canada. It's his first cap, 18 total caps and 28 points. And of course, he played for the San Diego Legion. They were the runner-ups this year. They certainly had the best record in the league, but it came up just 1 point short. We'll get into that. So that's an important one. I had a chance to speak with him, and I think we got that on Next Level Rugby, if I'm not mistaken. We chatted with him. I'm pretty sure that was correct, right, Ginty? Did we get Hooley?
Yes, we did get Will Hooley in. If you go to the one of the last segments, he was in it. That was awesome just to be able to do it. And I think, just what I took from that interview is just afterwards, just how thankful he was just of the coverage, that Rugby Rant, that Next Level Rugby is doing, took the time to say, hey, we really appreciate that. So you're out there, you're doing it, and just gracious. I was standing down on the field as he came off the field and walked right past, into his bench, man. And it was to sit there and in that moment. Yeah, it's emotional. I mean, I was really emotional. I'm just he's kind of a little bit banged up. He's stepping up, leaving, right. Not on his own terms, but thank you, Will Hooley.
Yeah. And then the other guy is Ryan Mattias. Once again, he was in that final as well. I don't know that he was as forthright announcing his retirement, but I had a chance to talk with him after the match. Before we get into that, Arizona Wildcats, University of Arizona, played for them. All Blue, San Diego Breakers back with the first iteration of professional rugby in the United States. Yeah, pro rugby. Of course, San Diego Legion, USA Sevens, IRB World Sevens 2013, 2014. So he was in 7 competitions. And then he was brought over to USA 15s, where he was Eagle number 486. Again, he was also capped with Canada, 13 caps, 30 points. And just a great guy. I love Ryan because I was chirping at him. I was chirping with him when they were playing the Hounds. And I was just kind of saying, hey, Mattis, we're going to see you out there soon. He's like, no, not until the last little bit. And then somebody had an HIA and he had to go out there. And he's kind of pointing at me going, you jinxed me, bro. You jinxed me. And so I said, yeah, we wanted to see a play. So great guy. And I caught up with him after the game.
But I'm happy for the sport of rugby. I'm happy for Major League Rugby. It was an absolute spectacle here. Neutral ground, stadium record. I mean, you got Shaq playing. It's a win for rugby, and we take a look at where Major League Rugby started in 2018, and look at where it's at now. We're growing. We're taking over America one city at a time and one game at a time, and this is nothing short of an absolute spectacle of event, and Major League Rugby should be very happy. Everyone involved, obviously the winning team, congratulations, Free Jacks. What a championship class side. Our boys should be proud of the effort that they put forward, and all the other teams that didn't even get to this point. We're changing the American landscape of sports, and we're doing it 1 year at a time, and every year it's gotten bigger and better and bigger and better. And I know that the people that are working in Major League Rugby and all the back office staff and every single team, they're the ones to thank for this awesome spectacle, and it's just going to continue on an upward trajectory, and I'm excited to watch it grow. Thank you.
And again, to reiterate what Ginty said about Hooley, just super gracious, right. Just I think really thankful. for the rugby community in the United States. And he's a guy that left the jersey in a better place than when he received it. So thank you, Ryan.
And that's kind of the great philosophy of rugby, right? Is you always want to try and do that. And both of them, great ambassadors for the sport, and did a lot to be able to take it one step farther here in the US. I'm going to take back further into USA Rugby and talk about education and training. You know, one of the things that we spoke about, and you guys know this, and fans who didn't have the opportunity to be able to see the pre-show that we're all a part of on TRN, we had Scott Lawrence, and he's hailed as one of the great rugby minds and coaches, GM. You know, he's kind of been there, done it all in rugby. And even he would admit that he wishes that he wasn't one of the few, you know, and that's because we need to be able to see more American rugby coaches gaining their craft, exploring their talents, and connecting with communities closer to home, so to speak. USA Rugby is continuing that promise to be able to give coaches, aspiring coaches, that opportunity through their training and education program. A level 3 training program is going to be extended through its success in 2022 into 2023 and into 2024. This August, you have the opportunity to be able to start your level 3 training. There is some criteria, there is some qualifications that are of course needed. You need to have some experience. You need to be able to show that. There's an application process that you can go and check out online and learn more about this by emailing training@usa.rugby or visit USA Rugby itself to be able to see more of the details. The application process, should you wish to be a part of it, does end July 28th, so you'd have to act fairly quickly. Now, I will tell you, these type of experiences are long. They're not quick. It's one of the higher qualifications you can get. So it runs all the way from August until March next year. It will have a minimum of 7 sessions, including a weekend away in Charlotte, where you will be given in-person training and guidance. That experience is going to cost you, though, a pretty penny. It's going to be $750. And you will have to pay for your flight to Charlotte. However, once you get yourself there, USA Rugby is covering the bill for your food, accommodation, and transfers. So I think that's a pretty fair deal, considering.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Take advantage of that. Coaches, take advantage of that. What's a plane ticket? Self-development, professional development. You know, you got to spend money to make money. You're not really going to make money as a rugby coach, but you got to spend money to be happy and to be able to do this. So, like, hey, I mean, kudos to USA Rugby for going out, putting out the money and doing that, because that is the biggest weak point of this game, is that you get a lot of talent, you know, that goes on to the senior level. And like Sam Harris told me that this year, like one of his players, he's like, I'm teaching him things that I knew when I was 10. You know what I mean? And it's no knock on rugby coaches, right? Like the people that are out there that are volunteering, that are taking their time, but to have that development, that skill set, that knowledge collectively as Americans, we haven't had that sport here long enough and visible enough to really understand the game. So
everybody talks about improving the rugby IQ. This is just another area that we have to do it.
Exactly.
So, Ryan, we swing it to you as a last and final piece for the Round the Pitch. What else do you have to share with us?
Hey, go USA, huh? Like, let's go USA. U20s, you know, they are back on tour. They have left. They're in Africa right now, going to Kenya. They'll be playing in the World Rugby Trophy Tournament. A little bit different for what's going on right now that you're seeing live on YouTube and for free, so you should be watching it. But the U20 tournament, World Tournament's going on. What this is basically a qualification tournament for it's not labeled tier 2, but for lack of a better term, we'll call it the tier 2 countries right now that aren't in the World U20 Carrington Cup, Ty. I think we were talking about that earlier.
Well, that was the under 18. Yeah.
Then, and so under 18s. Okay, so it's hard to keep up.
I got it wrong. I gave you bad info up front.
I mean, neither one of us knows, so it's whatever. But anyways, we know the U20 World Tournament's going on right now. The trophy tournament is taking place in Kenya. This right now, it's going to be 16 matches, all taking place at Nyayo Stadium in Nairobi, Kenya. This is a great opportunity for the Kenyan, government to show their sport. You know, Kenya is a rugby mad country.
A very
right? We see them in the
rugby
sevens.
Nation.
Exactly, very passionate. I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity. Teams that are competing in Pool A, which the U.S. is in, we're going to have to compete against Scotland, Zimbabwe, and Uruguay. That is not an easy pool. Scotland, in like Scotland, everyone looks at this as, oh man, Scotland's gonna be really good. This Uruguay team, are you kidding me? Like, that is a country that is 100% put all of their focus into rugby. That is going to be their national sport if it isn't already. So that's going to be tough. And then you got Pool B: Kenya, Spain, Samoa, and Hong Kong. It's going to kick off July 15th. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be on World Rugby's YouTube. Don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I do think you are going to be able to watch this. And it's going to be awesome. And I will say that we produced and I directed the U20s matches when they played Canada in North Carolina, and they put a whooping on Canada. They really did. But I asked around the people who know, and I said, is the U.S. team really that good, or is Canada just not good? And they just said Canada's not a good team. But that being said, we have some really impressive talent coming up through the ranks in the U.S. Did all the high school national championships on the women's side, do all the college rugby. Like, I'm seeing better rugby played at this, like, under 18s, under 20s level than I'm being seen played in college rugby.
Positive sign for a 2031 World Cup campaign, right?
These are the kids that'll be playing in it, right? So make sure you're tuning in, check that out in this U20 team. And there are definitely some future stars of American rugby on this team. And let's not forget, we've won a U20s trophy before.
Yep.
And who was
under
Scott Lawrence.
Scott Lawrence,
right? And the fact that he's put an emphasis on the U20s and U18s, I love that, because he gets it. He sees the long-term objective there.
Right.
And that's why he's the guy to be in the position he's in, by the way.
And there you have it, rugby fans. All the news you need to learn about, need to know about, and should learn more about over time, as we'll continue to be able to cover it week after week as we do so here on the Rugby Rant podcast show, helping rugby grow one fan at a time. And we're going to be back in a moment to continue the debate with these two gentlemen firing away at three important topics related to the rugby final for MLR taking place last week between the San Diego Legion and, of course, the New England Free Jacks. We'll be talking about the rugby product, the fan experience, and the broadcast value. Stick around. We'll be back.
Tighthead Brewing Company is not just Chicago's premier location to watch rugby and enjoy quality ales and lagers. It is also a great place to enjoy local acts performing live music every Thursday and Saturday nights. Additionally, their Wednesday night trivia nights are something not to be missed. Tighthead is located in Mundelein, Illinois, and easily accessible for many Chicagoans, as it is just steps away from the metro. Owner Bruce Durr and the Tighthead staff are dedicated to ensure your microbrew experience is as tight as their beers. Bruce's love for rugby extends beyond the origin of his brewery's name. Tighthead is committed to supporting the rugby community. This includes his support for Lake County RFC and our own Rugby Rant podcast show. Tighthead's tap room is like the familiar rugby clubhouse in which friends and teammates can meet, socialize, and enjoy the wide variety of brews on tap. Regardless of whether your palate enjoys a good IPA or dark barrel-aged brew, Tighthead can deliver. Hey, Chicago, when you want rugby, Tighthead Brewing Company will satisfy your thirst. Tighthead, it's worth more than a try.
All right, and we're back. Thank you for continuing to spend your time here with us on the Rugby Rant podcast show. And as promised, we're going to be diving into the important details, revealing what we feel and think with everything MLR Championship final related. So we're going to branch off into three different areas here, talking about, first up, the fan experience inside and outside and during the event as well. And of course, post-match celebrations, everything in between. It's all open table here as we dive into it for a moment. And then we're going to talk about the rugby product itself. And then finally, the broadcast value for fans at home. And I suppose it could also say that there's some value there in the fan experience too for those in stadium. A good place to be able to start is with you, Rob. All three of us were there at the stadium. I'm sure it goes without saying, but I want to remind fans that it was a battle to the end. 25-24 was the final scoreline against Legion competing against the Free Jacks. Of course, Free Jacks coming up the winners on this occasion. We're going to talk more about that in detail, but the fan experience, I want to hear your opinion, Rob.
Wow. So my perspective is that the fans who were there, I don't know anybody, I didn't talk to anybody that didn't have a wonderful time. And it was from almost like point to point, from start to finish. They had a great time. It started early with a tailgate. We arrived there, you and I, about 10 o'clock. I know Ginty was there about 9 o'clock, and already fans had congregated. The Free Jack fans, I mean, they were probably outnumbered San Diego, and it makes sense, a little closer to Boston and to Quincy. But they had a couple of tents. Both San Diego fans and Free Jack fans, I believe, were giving away some swag, some T-shirts, enjoying and reveling in the excitement outside. I did not get into the block party. So I don't know if you guys heard anything about that. I'm sure you'll touch on it. But then, the warm-up acts, shout out to DJ Beamish, one of the members of the Hounds family. And then, of course, Shaq Diesel jumping in there and finishing with the Dropkick Murphys. I mean, the fact that there were fans on the pitch with New England Free Jack players who had just won a championship was awesome. Like, I saw the guys out there, they hadn't changed out of their jerseys. There were guys, they'd taken off their cleats and pitched them and chucked them inside the locker room, and then walked back out in their bare feet just to enjoy being out and being in a festival atmosphere. And that was awesome. The one complaint that I'm seeing, and I get it, is the merch sales, that there were no championship gear for sale. But I imagine they're probably leaving that up to the winners, the New England Free Jacks, to produce something that reflects what they want to, produce in a championship gear, and let them sell it online and make the money from that. So if you're listening, fans, be patient. I think the Giltinis put out stuff 2 years ago. New York put out some stuff last year, but I think the Free Jacks will do it right.
Right. So be ready with it. We're going to stay on the same topic here. And for me, actually, I think I want to give a shout out to Bruce Durr and Tighthead Brewing.
San Diego Legion standing ready behind me. You can hear them. They're loud, they're proud, and they're here to be able to compete in the boat race of the season. Oh, let's hear it. Look at this crowd. Well, here we have it, folks. It is head-to-head as the first races are off. We're on to number 2. Oh, we have a second shot of it here, and it's head-to-head in the final round. We have on the left with Sadia, and the Free Jacks take the opportunity, and with that, the win to the Jacks Rangers. Oh,
wow, look at that.
And Tighthead Brewing, talking about the tailgate experience. First off, the Free Jacks were out in their droves. They had an amazing tailgate experience, set up all the tents. It certainly was a great feature of the tailgate, but certainly the highlight was the boat race between the San Diego Legion and, of course, the Free Jacks fans, where Bruce Durr, owner and, of course, a great rugby patron as well, was the master of ceremony, so to speak, and started off the race. And that was good fun, and hopefully folks be able to get to see that. But that was just a small piece of the camaraderie and the spirit that personified the great rugby atmosphere that came to be able to be outside the stadium, and also traveled and transferred that same energy to inside the stadium, in my experience, in my personal experience there. But one of the questions that has consistently popped up online through the MLR Fan Zone group, and I'm going to point this in your direction, Ryan, is that a lot of people said that, well, a neutral venue was not great for fans, because they were forced to be able to travel. They were in an area that was unfamiliar to them. Although I think many people would agree that the stadium was fantastic. The facilities were good. The pitch was in good condition. They just sometimes felt that it left large parts of the home audiences, those fans that ordinarily would have enjoyed a game closer to home, out of this opportunity. What do you say to them?
Well, I mean, first off, I want to take a shot at the guy that Rob was talking about, and some yokel that thinks that they're going to waste how much money on T-shirts and printing up T-shirts for champions on the off chance that somebody's going to be able to win. And then what are they going to do with those T-shirts? Throw them out? They make them for the teams for them to go around. That's not going to be readily available. And then also readily available. Do you understand sports operations? As soon as the game's done, everybody's gone. Like that costs money for that stuff like that. I mean, I think that's an unrealistic expectation for a fan to have, that you're going to buy a Free Jacks championship t-shirt as soon as they win a championship. Come on, man. If that's your complaint, get out of here. I don't have time for that. But let me get back to this one where you're talking about the neutral venue. There is empirical evidence, and that empirical evidence is 10,100 in a neutral site. How many people were in New York last year? Not even 3,000 at Red Bull Stadium.
Yeah.
So get out of here with this neutral thing. I, for one, have been like a huge, proponent for the neutral venue, right? Like I think that you have to, because you can plan for it. You can build an event around it. This block party, I live in Chicago. We just saw on a bus today, Dogtown block party animals wanted, going by on a bus today. You know what I mean? Like you can market it to a city. You can get it going out there. As soon as we were done wrapping up the show in the first half, I went down, I found Josh Macy. We were sitting in the corner, just sitting there talking just like about everything except for rugby. And there was a woman that was sitting there drinking. She goes, "Excuse me, I don't know anything about rugby. Can you tell me about this?" And I said, "Lady, you asked the right person." She was talking to Macy. I was like, "You asked the right person to explain this and break this down to you." And he did in a very good way. And he goes, "Well, how did you get here?" She goes, "I just saw the advertising for it and it said it was a good time, so I wanted to come." Right? That's a new fan. That's a new fan that gets to experience that comes to this event that is just like, put on. Like, first off, I want to say hats off to Jess Dombrowski, James English, and Caitlin and everybody else.
And the ownership group.
The ownership group that spent the money to make this happen, right? That spent money.
And it was not cheap, let's be honest. Right?
No, like that guy right over there.
And for those who don't know, Shaquille O'Neal's reported figure per an hour is starting at 150,000 and up to 230,000. Now, I don't know what it was. I don't pretend to presume, but I think most people could say the quality of entertainment that was there, they did not skimp at all.
Yeah. And so just back to wrap it all up, right? Like I think the neutral venue, I think it gives you time to prepare. It gives you time to put in a good product. The product was awesome. Like the product was awesome, right? Like we got to do our stuff, you out in the parking lot, the boat races, just meeting up with everybody. Like that was a great environment, great atmosphere. And then just getting to take it in. Like you said, Rob, like there was not one person that was there that was not excited for rugby and didn't say the same thing. Like this was a great moment for rugby. Like the MLR championship should be the pinnacle event of our American rugby calendar. It should be a celebration of the year that was in rugby. And I think this was a great start. I think it's going to go up from here because the standard has been set. I've been to I've been to 4 MLR finals. I've been to 4 of them. Post-COVID, LA was cool, but it was cavernous, right? There was like some people there, but they were all there to see Steve Aoki mostly. You know what I mean? LA was an awesome team. Last year, Red Bull, right? Like you had the issues with Red Bull to where it was like, under 3,000 people there. No knock on New York for whatever, but I mean, it's just like you talk about these neutral sites and
and
the
they
NFL
had to get
does
those
it.
venues with like a couple of weeks notice.
Exactly. And that's a great point, Ty. I mean, that's such a solid point. Like scheduling out venues and having proper stuff and being able to do that. It's not easy and you can't do it last minute.
Right.
Especially when you have to be on Fox, when you have a time slot on Fox and a good time slot this year. Like, let's be honest, last year's time slot sucked. Like noon Eastern time at 9 a.m., Seattle fans have to wake up and their game's already starting at 9 a.m. That sucks. 3 p.m., now that's noon in Seattle. That works, right? So like, all these factors come together. And so when you're thinking about it from a fan perspective, you have to realize that it's not the fan, I do believe, is like one of the most important things, if not the most important thing you have to think about. But the fan also has to realize that when you run an organization, when you run a team, when you run the mechanics of an operation like this are so involved and there's so many moving pieces to where you just can't get what you want all the time.
So, gentlemen, often we have to be able to try and quantify these things because that's what fans want to be able to hear. So if you had to score it on a 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, Rob, I ask you first for fan experience.
Fan experience. I would say a 9, or maybe an 8 to a 9. And the only reason I would say that is, and I'm not sure that James and his crew didn't think about this, but it would have been, and again, it comes back to the logistics that Ginty talked about. If they would have just said, okay, we're gonna sell one side that the camera faces first, and maybe that end zone beyond the end goal area, I think it's in the southeast side or north, maybe it's northeast side. But anyway, sell those out. And if those get sold out, then we'll open up the other side and allow people to return their tickets and buy something.
And I want you to hold on to the rest of that thought, because that's going to be a really good one to dive into when we talk about the broadcast, because that was something that many fans have brought up. And we'll dive into that in a moment. But before then, I'm going to ask you, Ryan, to give us a score.
I mean, I'd give it a solid. I mean, like, honestly, I'd give it a 12.5 just because, like, go Free Jacks.
I can only
go Free Jacks. Like, I'm still riding this high, man. Like, I mean, like, to be like, that's the team that, like, I built my business on. I did all their games pre-COVID. Like, you know, like, I love that group. Like, it was an awesome experience. And I mean, again, it was just being able to step out and be amongst the crowd of the people, and all of it, like, it was just great, man. And like, the Free Jacks are on stage. Dropkick Murphys are playing Shipping Up to Boston. They're all up there. They're going nuts.
Right. And I want folks to know there was a large crowd that stuck around. As you pointed out, in most big games, people are out the door as soon as the game's done, right? But instead, you invited everybody out onto the field. You hit this before with the players out there enjoying it themselves. And there was thousands of people to be able to enjoy Dropkick Murphys' performance right after it, right? So what
the cohort were there having a good time, man. The cohort were out there going nuts. Like, I mean, a lot of San Diego, a lot of fun. I mean, I think this kind of like harkens back, and it makes me excited about like rugby and what could be on the American landscape, because the rugby fan is a different fan than what we're used to in conflict and like fighting and like all that. Like, you know, that's not what rugby is. You know, you go to a World Rugby Cup and there are no fights. There aren't people like upset.
You go to a soccer game and they have to separate fans. Instead, in rugby, we bring them together.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that's great about this sport, and that I hope that we never lose and that we keep good with it. And I mean, so that's why I think, you know, coming out of that, like, I got to give it a 12.5.
So I'm
realistically an 8.5, because there's always room for improvement.
So let me throw it back at you. We're going to turn our attention to the next topic here to talk about the on-field product, the rugby itself. Obviously, it was an exciting affair right to the bitter end. I think it was about 2 minutes to be able to go. We had a little bit of drama, but ultimately it ended up being a 1-point difference in favor of the Free Jacks. I personally went in thinking it was going to be the Free Jacks, but about 20 minutes out, it still was anybody's game. Yeah. And as Rob, as you quite rightly pointed out, 65 minutes can pass and San Diego may look as if they're on the back foot. Then 15 minutes of magic comes your way. And this exchange was back and forth. The lead had changed several times. Yes, we got stuck with a little bit of kicking game in between, but ultimately the final product, I believe most fans would recognize, was some of the best rugby we had seen all season long. With that now being said, I hand it to you first, Ginty, to be able to take us into this one.
Yeah, I think you had the two best teams in the league hands down all year playing each other. I think this is like a dream matchup. It's what you wanted. You know, New England, San Diego, San Diego, the bridesmaid, always the bridesmaid. We know that now, just can't get it done. But like, I thought it was great. I thought that plays were made. There were no like handling errors don't really stick out to me, right? Like good counterattacking play.
Two
good
to me.
Tennis. Huh?
Two of them do to me.
Wow. I mean, like in the grand scheme of the games, right? Like, yeah, two of them obviously a big one, and especially against somebody that's not used to making those mistakes, right? Like, but I mean, that's the beauty of sport, right? And I think McCarthy called it best, and the look on Mac's face when he said it to him, he goes, it's the team of superstars versus the team of no names, and it's true, man. Like these Free Jacks, like right, like, but they played together, they had fun. Rob at the. It was a military mindset. It was clinical work for San Diego. New England was there having fun. And when you're on that level and you're just playing for each other, you're having fun. Like those are the teams you cannot beat. Teams that are out there, that are cohesive, that are just going that the moment that really stuck out to me, and it wasn't a try, but as that Vian Conradi run down the sideline, that he just trucked people, went over.
He just kept going, right? I mean, he fell shy about 2 or 3 meters, but what a run.
And at that, I thought it was great. And I mean, I'm like, I hate to toot my own horn, but I've been saying that the best 12 in the league is not for San Diego. It's LaRue Milan. Like I've been saying that all season. Awesome. Like that guy's the best 12 in the league. And then what's he do? He ends up getting that great slide. The best 12 in the league shoots up too much. He gets to the outside of him. 12-on-12 action, right? Like, I mean, the best two players on the pitch, arguably right there going at it. And it's just, New England comes out, they win. That was just such a great moment. I was literally standing like on behind the video board, and I was watching Eric Anderson just start, let's go Free Jacks, like the biggest fan out there. It was actually kind of funny because like where I was standing, I was like kind of kitty corner, like right by the lane to the bench. He was up in the walkout tunnel, and security stopped him and Max from coming down. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I shouldn't even be here. And you're like, you're not letting the owner. And then they eventually got let through, and they let them go through. But to just see them and the excitement and like all the hard work and TK and Wheels too, and all those guys that New England's done. And no disrespect to San Diego, they've done a lot of awesome work too. But like, you know, I've seen this firsthand. I'll be up in New England again here in like 2 weeks working at Fort Quincy, and to be able to call that, you know, the home of the champion Free Jacks, like Fort Quincy, like that's awesome, man. And I just think it's a good win for rugby fans. It's a good win for rugby. And, you know, I think the product, you know, and I mean, and there was I was overhearing some conversations up in the Heineken Lounge. I probably shouldn't have, but this game went out internationally on some big European channels, and they're saying that the product and the quality and feedback they were getting was excellent. And that was prime time over there too. That's some stuff.
Right. I mean, it's one of the greatest advertisements that we have to be able to showcase rugby, U.S. domestic rugby on the world stage, right? It should be the best product of the whole season. Rob, I know that, you know, we were talking about predictions and you were leaning originally towards San Diego. Yeah. No one would fault you for that because a 1 point difference could have been anybody's game. But what do you really think now that you've had time to digest it?
Well, and I'll address the point difference here in a moment, but let me just throw some other statistics at you.
Sure. 6
tries, which isn't, I think is a perfect amount, right? Because there's enough defense, but there's enough offense to whet your appetite and give you what the action you're looking for.
And first points came in like the first 7 minutes as well, right? The first try.
Well, so hey, don't steal my thunder, man.
Sorry.
You know, but Ryan talked about, you know, people, there's a little bit of kicking in there, and Ryan wasn't critical of it. Some people were, and I'm going, yeah, but that's part of rugby, right? The tactics, the volleying back and forth, the testing of the opposition. They had that, but they also had the action too. I mean, Nate the Great had a great try, 2 great tries, but one of them in the corner just touching it down, and he's vertical like Superman. I mean, it was awesome. Only 15 penalties. Frequently during the season, we see one team commit 15 penalties. There was a total of 15 here. Cam Stone, I thought, played a great game, you know, as juxtaposed in the Women's World Cup when when England was beaten, and there was that red card that kind of almost was seen as the difference maker in that final. We didn't have that, right? There were no yellows, no reds, which was great. 7 lead changes. You mentioned several. There were 7 back and forth. And at 76 minutes, New England takes the lead, making it, you know, that exciting, you know.
Right.
I picked San Diego by 5. They were 4 points ahead up till that point. I mean, this was a back and forth affair, and sometimes in tight games with 2 great teams, again, 15-1, 14-2, it's the littlest differences, those marginal gains that are made by one team, either mental or physical, that make the difference. And I'm watching San Diego, and both teams are just pulling bodies off the turf, right? In the last 10 minutes. It was exactly what we wanted in a final.
Right. And it's the closest one yet, too, which is a credit to where the league is. And in addition to that, we have a first-time entry to a final with the Free Jacks, and now a new title being offered to a franchise that has never seen it before. So this is great for rugby.
Can I just throw one more statistic in you? Ball and play, almost 41 minutes.
That is well above the average, though.
Right? 32 to 34 is about what we typically see. I mean, how do you not like when the ball is in play more than 50% of the game?
Right.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is higher than international leagues. You know, this is coming back around to what Ginty had said a moment ago. How does it compare to the product overseas? Super Rugby traditionally is about 35 minutes. URC is about 37 minutes. So you're actually talking about a lot. Now, we're talking about a difference of minutes, but in terms of viewing experience, that's actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
Ryan, you wanted to jump in.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here or Ty cut me off if I am, but did you guys see like the reception that they got when they landed at the airport? Did you see the police motorcade that they had, that the Free Jacks had? Yeah, Quincy. I mean, that was the one thing that we really touched on in the show, and like really from Mags and then from Josh Larson. It's just the community of Quincy, like they met them at the airport, like the police escort. Can you imagine what that feels like to be getting there? Like we talk about feeling like a professional athlete, and sometimes in MLR, it may be hard to feel like a professional athlete, especially on the American landscape or even on any international rugby landscape. Like, let's just be honest here, right? Like, but to have that now, and these are the things that make it hopeful that, hey, we're getting there, right? Like my buddies in a group text message chat that never talk about rugby or anything are talking about rugby now. You know, like, oh, hey, did you see this? And they're like, hey, did you see Nate Ebner was there? And I was like, hey, did you see right here that like, where am I? I'm doing this backward. Right there, that Ty right there got an interview with Nate Ebner. Yeah. Like, you know, like that, like, so that is what makes it hopeful. You know, like the Free Jacks, you know, their city's welcoming them. They're definitely going home to their heroes welcome, and like they deserve it. And that's awesome.
It made ESPN top 10 plays too.
What did?
One of the tries.
So the winning try. But
winning try.
I mean, come on, ESPN. You couldn't give us a little bit more, a little bit higher than that. It's probably because we're not on ESPN. It's probably because we're on Fox Sports. So they didn't give us a 5 seed or a 4 seed or something like that. But whatever, we'll take it, right?
Yeah,
fair enough. So let's take time to be able to dive into the final piece that we wanted to be able to dissect here. And that's the TV broadcast. This one's actually been kind of a hot topic, and for good reason, and sometimes maybe bad reason, depending on where you lie, on which side of the conversation you may fall. But I wanted to be able to highlight one particular a comment that I saw online, and let me take the opportunity to read it aloud, and then I'll let you gentlemen. In fact, I might let you take a crack at this one first, Ginty. So I won't mention as a courtesy who wrote this, but moral of the story, this is the quote: "A home final will look better on TV. Worth a try, no pun intended, but does MLR gain anything from the look on TV for this final? No, they did not. If we're going to use a neutral site final, we absolutely have to consider free tickets. There's just no other way to fill the stands."
I mean, I think that's like, I think it's foolish to think that some tickets weren't given out to groups, right? I mean, for him to just be like, "I'll give out free tickets now." I do think part of marketing is you do give out some free tickets. Do you give out 500 free tickets? Do you give out 1,000 free tickets? No. But like you do give out free tickets, right? So there are free tickets out there. But I think both me and Rob talked about this in separate points and kind of defunct this guy already, right? Like you look at the statistics, you look at the number, right? Like maybe they
record attendance, all these things, just to reiterate it again so that, folks are following along. Over 10,000 is the highest number for any final.
Yeah. Right. And so it's like, so you have that taken care of. So I just don't understand that. And then, I mean, like, I just, you can't really put everybody on one side just for optics and looking of it, right? I think like the thing that made the event on site felt so good was just that it was like you could kind of float around. You could go places. You weren't anchored somewhere, right? Like you think about it, you go to a baseball game. What do? You like to go over here. You go over here. I see my friends over there. I see my friends there. Nobody that was there were sitting in their seats. You weren't sitting in seats you were supposed to be sitting in.
It's actually an interesting and fresh take, though. I hadn't actually considered, because we were talking about one component of the success being fan experience, and now we're talking about broadcast value. So you could say on one side, if you group fans together, it would look better. The optics would be better, right? It would look like a more full audience. But at the same time, it could diminish the fan experience, as you said. So, it's kind of like a trade-off. So, where do you strike the balance? I mean, over 10,000 is a success. People had ability to walk around, enjoy things. I'm not trying to jump and step on your toes here. I'm just trying to be able to flush out exactly why I think I like it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think it's like, I think being able to move around, the freedom of movement was good. Plus also, like, you don't see how many people are in the boxes. You don't see that, right? Like the concourse people in behind.
All the suites were taken. When we walked past those rooms, it looked like everyone was filled.
Which, if we're talking about money and bringing in money, those are the things you want to sell. Those are the things. Those are the barometers of success you look at in a stadium. If you've sold out all your suites, you sold out all your boxes, you're making good money, and that's a healthy thing, right? But you can't get everything. I mean, as a TV director, do I want everybody on one side of the stadium? Yeah, but at the same time, you don't control that. I mean, you don't do that, and especially if the whole theme of the event is a block party, where you move from the stadium to the fields to
if you look at a sevens, HSBC sevens tournament, you're never in the same seat longer than an hour, right?
Same thing with Vegas sevens, right? That was the fun of Vegas sevens.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Cape Town event a few times. I've been to Dubai one once, and the fun of it is that you get to be able to mingle, you meet people. You know, it's a festival atmosphere, and at a festival, the whole point is you're supposed to move around and have fun, and different factors of entertainment. And I think that's what rugby in America is trying to do, but they call it rugbytainment. So it encompasses all of this. So perhaps the broadcast just needs to be able to capture a little bit more of the fan experience, in addition to the fans just in the crowd. And I know
then what do you get? So then you get some idiot that's online saying, "Oh, why are they showing the fans?
You can't satisfy everybody all the time.
I should be this. I should be that."
That's why they need a pregame show, right, Ginty?
Yeah, that's why you need a pregame show.
That's where you do it, right? That's where you do the pregame. That's where you really show the fan experiences in that pregame show. So you're not taking away from the rugby product, but you're showing what's going on in and around the stadium, and what people are, what the day that people are enjoying.
And I guess to round this out, right? Like to the point that this guy's making, right? Like, does it look better when there are fans in the stands? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. That is,
no one's arguing that.
Yeah, right. But do I think at this point where Major League Rugby is and where it is, somebody's going to look at it and be like, "Oh, no, I'm not going to watch that." Hell no, man. They're going to look at the product and the feeling and be like, "That was awesome," right? It was a good stadium, good viewing angles, good production. Like, I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, like fans that are kind of moving around and not being like, "That dude, pick something else." I mean, that guy's going to complain about something anyways.
And a venue like that is set up with broadcast in mind. It's a Major League Soccer stadium. They've already thought about the broadcast angles. They've already thought about all of those things. So for the MLR to be able to use a venue like that, most of the challenges of creating a quality product, or at least having the platform to create a quality product, is already overcome. And that's an important point too.
And I think to piggyback off of that, even more so why a neutral venue is important, right? Like, could you imagine a final in Mount Vernon, New York? No.
Well,
right. Yeah. Like, I remember, if they didn't get Red Bull Stadium last year, where was that final going to be? It wasn't even going to be at Mount Vernon, New York, right? Yeah. Like, it was going to be a high school stadium. So now you want to talk about the optics of it, right? So when we talk about all these pictures, you got to think about everything. So, I mean, that's where, like, good angles. And I mean, you just look at Seattle. Like, Seattle's never going to look good for broadcast because it's not a stadium made for broadcast. You know what I mean? It's not going to look good. So people can complain about it, but there's nothing you can do. You can't put lipstick, you know what I mean? Can't dress it up all the way. So it's like,
Rob, I know you obviously would echo very much many of the same things we've already covered here, but did you feel like there was anything more to add?
Well, I guess there was one comment that I read that basically it intoned that a home venue filled would have been a better event, right? And I said, my response is, okay, so which stadiums are you going to fill? And let's say it's Starfire. Let's say it's because they were one of the finalists. Let's say it's Snapdragon. They were one of the, in there in the playoffs. So Houston was in the playoffs. New York was in the playoffs. Which of those stadiums are a great venue to host the penultimate event of the league? There's one other one. There's one other one.
Well, bearing in mind 10,000 is the number you've got to be.
Right.
There's only two,
because all the others won't host 10,000.
Right.
Except for Houston, all the others are shared event stadiums with the lines that everybody complains about, with a narrow pitch. Some of them have, trailers for bathrooms and bring in, porta potties. Some of them have trucks that bring in food, and all that stuff is fine when you're hosting on a weekly basis and you want a more intimate venue for, each week. But when you're trying to recruit sponsors, corporate sponsors, Cokes and the Pepsis and all that other stuff, American Airlines and Fastenal and Arctic and all those things, you really want to host them in a situation like that where there are no corporate suites, where there's the executive food in those suites is non-existent. I'm saying no. So the other one that would have worked would have been Snapdragon.
Yeah,
which
35,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, the complaint about being an empty venue would have still applied, because let's face it, they had 11,000, the record for any MLR match. And if you watch that match, it was still looked pretty vacant. I mean, our eyes, we saw it, we appreciated what they did, but it's still 11,000 in a 35,000 seat stadium. Right. And they packed it, by the way, on one side. I'm sorry. I just think anybody who feels like they've got to pack the stadium is missing the big freaking picture. Right.
Right. And it's difficult. It's difficult to be able to strike that balance. Now that we've set the new standard of 10,000, and I know you and I, Rob, were talking about what the league was hoping for, and they achieved that. 10,000 was the number that they would like to have seen in attendance for that final, and they got it. And what is interesting to note is that that's just about 50% capacity for SeatGeek, right? It's a 20,000-seater stadium. And to your point, though, if San Diego were the host, it would have looked even worse. And you can't choose any other venues. So you have to be able to think that for the optics, it's an unfortunate downside that maybe stadiums won't be full. But we can't go any smaller and we can't go any bigger. So this is the right fit.
So we just keep coming back to Chicago every year and make me and Rob.
Hey, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
For all three of us.
I'm good with that. That's what my buddy Bryce Elliott, shout out to you, my man. He said is they should award this like a 3-year contract for, somebody to host this. That way, hey, next year, same place, make your travel arrangements, be ready to go.
Well, there's plenty of people that I was talking to out there beforehand, San Diego fans that came from Wisconsin, right? Before there was a franchise for them to be able to call their own closer to home, they chose a team because they were a rugby fan somewhere else that they connected to. And that's who they followed, right? So, a neutral venue, easy to get to, all the great benefits. And now I'm not saying it has to be Chicago, right? Maybe it's somewhere else that you want to expand to, whatever it is. There's good and bad about what we could debate, but that would be a different show. But I think right now it was the right choice at the right time, and it came off well.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about that is talking with Tim Falcon. Rob was nice enough to invite me out to dinner with him with the meeting of the minds. And, I got to meet Tim and talk to him. But, he was saying how, he's realistic that NOLA could never host a final. Mm-hmm. He said, unless it was in the Superdome, because we could never host a final. We don't, it's too hot. Right. So it's like you've got owners thinking this way as well, too, which is important. You know what I mean? So obviously, if you have an owner that's saying that's thinking this way, obviously they're owners for a reason, and they're not just commenters or they're not idiots like us on a podcast, right? Because they know what they're doing.
Right. They're owners of the team, but they're partners in the league too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so,
Yeah. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Again, there you have it. For all the rugby fans tuning in here on the Rugby Rant, we have 3 thoughts in mind. One, we focused on the rugby experience. Both of you scored it very, very high. Then, of course, we spoke about the product, and I'm sure the score was just as high, if not higher in some areas. And finally, the debate of the broadcast product itself. We saw it from different angles, excuse the pun, but we certainly do take it on board. But where it is right now, it was the right choice for the right event at the right time. Would they hope to be able to continue something similar next year? We choose, if it was up to us, we would choose yes for a neutral venue every year. We understand the benefits, and you can tell us what you think as a fan, what the benefits could be, or perhaps the demerits behind choosing a neutral venue. And you can follow us under the handle at Rugby Rant Pod online through all of our social media platforms. And you can continue to enjoy our content week after week on the Rugby Network, in addition to all of our social media platforms and wherever you may choose to consume your podcasts. This, of course, has been a phenomenal episode with Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt and Ryan Ginty of Next Level Rugby. As a final reminder, my name is Ty the Safa Braga, and we will see you at the next.